Hello everybody, welcome back as ever to Building Blocks, where we covered Minecraft mods live on camera, and for some reason on my end the intro was completely silent, so I hope you guys heard something. But first let's start off just by showing all the interesting stuff that I've been working on this past week. I have mostly been working on the companions, so that we can get the companions to actually be doing some fun stuff and whatnot, and make sure that they're useful in as wide a variety of times as we can. And no knuckle cracks. There should be knuckle cracks. I'm presuming you can hear me right now. Do let me know. But yes, here we have Jared the testing skeleton. Jared is an good boy, although I definitely need to fix something here because he's rendering inside out inside of this screen, but that's graphics. We can leave that. Don't need to worry too much about that. But yeah, we'll keep his helmet on because it's unbreakable and it keeps him from burning alive. But yeah. So Jared is currently programmed to be to respond to orders from anybody. So consequently, even though I haven't actually summoned him, I can still do stuff like tell him to go around places. Very good, Jared. Can I reach? No, I don't. I can't quite reach that. Follow me, Jared. Thank you. Over to this horse, this conveniently placed horse. Spell horses from the mount will actually work just fine as well. There. Climb up on the horse. Off you go. Yay! Very good. This was the biggest headache, but it is entertaining to no end to be able to tell a skeleton to get onto a mount like this. Just So yeah, this so far is like very simplistic behaviors. This is just one shot. Okay, I've been told a thing, I'll do that thing now. Longer behaviors are a little bit more difficult, I guess would be the phrase, because we actually have to have some data storage for that. So guarding, for instance, I can tell you to guard right there, and Jared will now wander within a short range of this position and doesn't currently have any attack behavior assigned to it. If I tell him to guard me, he'll attack people that attack me. He won't actually do it preemptively though, so there's some stuff there, I guess. There's room for further development. But obviously the first thing you guys want to see is like picking up stuff, so please pick up that. Here we go. And we can also tell him to equip stuff. So, equip. There you go. Good, Jared. And it's fairly intelligent. If you tell them to pick up stuff, they'll try to put it into either their hands or their main inventory, in that order. And if you tell them to equip stuff, they'll try to apply it to their armor slots and then their hands. So, mostly because most things qualify as hands, so it's a little weird. If they have anything in their armor slots that they need to, like, remove, they will drop those as well. I kind of want to add those to their actual main inventory first, but oh well. Okay, legit, can you guys hear me? Because there hasn't been a message in like 4 minutes and I'm worried. Can you also hear me over the music? Because that got hecked up recently, so I need to make sure it's correct. Yes, we can hear you. Oh, good. Good to know. Doing me a heckin' worry. But yes, so this is Jared the testing skeleton, and he is currently capable of about 12, I think it is, different possible commands. Of course, there's a lot of them. He's not going to be capable of all the ones he's currently looking at, like, when he's released. He's mostly a test bed. So, consequently, there's a few things that he doesn't currently have in his list. And the one that I've been working on the most recently is the mining task, which is not remotely inside of his remit. But if we hop over to here, we have recently added, well, we had mine position before, we now have also quarry position. And we also need to implement activate position, which are basically what the mage hand does when you hold to go flip a lever or something. And I added quarry in addition to mine, so that people could necessarily tell them to mine out more than one given block. Because mine position should ideally only apply to the one block. If it applies to more than that, then you might accidentally tell them to quarry out half your house. So I wanted to make sure that we were a little bit careful with that. I'm gonna dial that down at those, because it's loud in my ears at the very least, I don't know about your guys. So, over to here. So we have Entity AI Companion Mine. This itself is an extension of Entity AI Companion, which basically just checks if there is actually a companion at all. It's basically just a holder for the most part. Keeps a bunch of AI elements that we need when we're making actual tasks for the companions and such. So, the longer term things that we need have their own AI tasks. So we have follow, guard, item, mine, and mount. Mount is there mostly just because we have to make sure that the companion is within a certain range of the target mob. Item deals with going over to an item on the ground and then picking it up or equipping it, that sort of thing. Follow and guard are actually virtually identical. It's like guard for the most part is just checking a block position, and if it's following a mob, then it just gets the block position from that mob. Otherwise, it just gets the standard static block position. And then if it's also guarding a mob, then it checks to see if someone attacked it recently and attacks them. If it's not doing anything right now, that is sort of thing. Yeah, bleh. And follow is pretty much like every single follow task in vanilla. It just finds the target entity and tries to like keep close to it, that sort of thing. As you saw there, we can make the mounted mobs move around as well, so if we told Jared to get on the horse and then follow me, then they'll do that, which means that you can theoretically have mounted parties of companions, which is an entertaining concept. It's a little weirder when you're telling them to attack, though, because it doesn't quite seem to work as far as I can tell. But, yeah. Anyways, today we'll be starting off checking out the quarrying and the mining, because I think that is rife for mischief. So, yeah. So let's just add those to here. So that should be mine position. And quarry position. Very straightforward. As I say, not all of these are going to be in here. But for the right now, they are. Okay, so now we've added that. One thing I do think I need to do is perhaps limit which possible actions you can assign to a command to, like, to the ones that companions in your vicinity will actually be able to do. So if, for instance, there are no companions in your vicinity that are able to mount a mob, you shouldn't get that option, just to, like, shorten it up, that sort of thing. I also want to add an actual, like, HUD display of what your options are, which one you've got selected, and who's going to receive it, that sort of thing, because I feel like they're a bit ephemeral at the moment. So, something to bear in mind for later. But okay, so we've given him access to the mine and the quarry, so now we need to actually add those up here. I have made an actual controller, but since Jared extends out of the actual vanilla skeletons, we actually have to enter these. We can't just use controllers, because vanilla mobs can't use controllers, because they didn't exist when Minecraft made them. Okay, what are the inputs that I'm missing? Oh yes, reach, which I think I don't care about. No, I do. Okay. So let's say that your reach is 4 blocks, because that's about the same as a player. Or actually, yeah, let's keep it there. Okay. There's a bunch going on under the hood of that task right now, but I will let you know what that is as we get to it. For now, we're just going to see if Jared can do any part of this. It's always sluggish the first few times you open it. You can't currently tell them to drop items, is a point of note. You also can't tell them to bring you items. That's pretty exclusive to the mage hand right now. Okay, activate mine. Okay, you did that pretty instantaneously, but okay. That's fine. Did the block drop? Doesn't appear to have. Okay, if I tell you to mine that block. Okay, right, also hasn't dropped. Okay, and if I point here and I tell you to quarry... We haven't... Right, I know what's going on. Okay. I haven't actually added that to the list of ones for blocks, I don't think. So we need to go to companion marking. Let's see, down to... Let's see, quarry should be in that list, interestingly enough. Interesting. So why wasn't it? Possibly it was finding itself as... Ah, yeah. Returning false because it wasn't actually in here to recognize otherwise. I can probably shorten a bunch of this as well. Things that have the exact same conditions don't need to put them in multiple times. There we go, okay. That should fix that up. By the by, you might have seen me being very annoyed about this on Twitter. Here is the code for determining if a given target entity can be a mount. It is horrific, because by the vanilla Minecraft code, technically speaking, literally everything can be a mount. So, the first thing I check is it an entity living base? And then I check if we don't currently have it, if it currently has an attack target. So basically, if it's currently in combat, you can't mount it up. Then I check to see if it has a different team to you, so you can't mount enemy units, that sort of thing. And then I have to go through a bunch of trouble just to identify if by any reasonable stretch of the imagination it is something that we could, like, mount up and still actually ride, like maneuver. I don't currently check for pigs or llamas or such, for instance, but I do check for mounts, because Barris Oddities actually has a root class for that, as well as horses. I check if the horses are saddled. Boats are a whole other world of pain, because boats can carry 2 people. There's nothing in the code that actually says how many people can be riding a given mount. It's just that boats actually have special handling for 2, and that 2 is hard-coded. It's not like a function of, hey, how many people can ride this mount? How many people can ride this one? No! It's just that bad. Oy. And I thought, like, abstract mount is old code and it is messy as all hell, but I am very happy that at least it is better than Minecraft. One of these days, I will give up trying to contort Minecraft into the strange Lovecraftian monstrosity that Various Oddities makes it, and we'll just, like, start my own thing with, I don't know, Unity, and it'll be a glorious piece of open-world A-life simulation that will probably make most supercomputers melt. Okay. Quarry. Off you go. Now, you might have noticed here that, in fact, Jared doesn't actually need to, like, be able to see the block, but, yeah. But okay, we do appear to have a spot of trouble. Are you not? No, you're just still wandering. Hi, how are you doing? Did you not receive my mark? Over there, please. No? But you can mark it. Okay, well, you can mine it. Interesting. Okay, so quarries is, quarries requires some work. That's fine. Is Versailles based on Lovecraft? No, but that would be an interesting mod. Done properly. And I stress the properly part. Okay. So let's look under the hood. So we check whether we currently are tasked with mining or quarrying. We check if we don't have if we don't currently have an attack target, because you don't want to be digging out stuff during combat, ideally. And then on we go. So we start off by checking what the target block is. So we check what its metadata is, as well as what type it is, namely. Those are our two major important things, because those will tell us if the thing that we were expecting to be there isn't there anymore. Oh, should I... Probably should check if target state is air. That feels like a probably important thing. So the check here is just, is it air or is it indestructible? An indestructible block generally has a hardness value of less than 0. Which is mostly just like, you set a block to unbreakable, it sets its hardness to be -1. Summon the mighty, the almighty spaghetti monster. Oh, I'm not going there. I get the reference and it's entertaining, but I'm not going there with a Minecraft mod. But okay. This is quite handily broken down to stages, because kind of need that. So first, we check if we are beyond our reach to the target block. If so, we try to move. If there is no path available, then we clear the mark, which might actually be what's causing him to just sort of give up. Then we check how we try to ascertain how long it should take for the mob with its held item to actually mine a given block. This is quite actually complicated because admittedly this is probably unsurprising for the most part, but Minecraft doesn't expect mobs will be mining. So basically every single feature for calculating mining time, mining hardness, whether you can harvest stuff, it's entirely done using an entity player. And you can't shove a mob into an entity player, because they're from two different branches. So, for right now, my check for the mining time and whether we can mine stuff is pretty much hard-coded. Just sort of the way, really. And let's just actually, whilst we're taking up there, let's start the mob.swingarm. There. Just give us a little bit of animation there. Why not? And let's also have him actually look at it too. So that would be target position X, target position Y, and target position Z. Okay. So, once that value, this mining timer, finally reaches or exceeds our calculated mining time, we destroy the block, and our can mine function here is very simple, and again is mostly a workaround to try and check if it's something we actually could mine. Otherwise things get kind of strange, but yeah, so that's just there for the moment. And then we have our cleanup step, because I'm a Magic the Gathering player and I can be a massive nerd. But, in that, if we're in the mining position, which is to say we're only trying to get the one block, then we just clear the mark. If we're in the quarry state, which is the part we're trying to get to work for the most part right now, we need to find the next nearest block. Now, quarry, I had to think really hard about a reasonably useful but balanced way of functioning, because there are really three main approaches to take with making an actual, like, with making a mining commander like this. The first is to say, only mine out that one block. But if you have to tell a companion to mine out one block at a time, over and over and over and over and over, then it's not very useful, suffice it to say. So, the next potential step is, okay, mine out every block for like a radius or some such. And that's good, but could also go horribly wrong. A subset of that option that I contemplated was just establishing a mine element object that your companions go to, and then it just handles all the overhead and stuff, but suffice to say that was not a great idea. And the third option is to just mine out all of those blocks that you're pointing at. So if you take your companion down to the mines, you give them a pickaxe and say, right, mine out that iron block. They'll try and mine out all of the nearby iron blocks. So that's what I went with in the end, because that seemed the most balanced, but also if you accidentally selected the wrong block, it wouldn't necessarily be a massive disaster. This also, by the way, by means of how the search pattern works for get nearest block, it avoids what happens with witchery goblins a lot, which is that you would grab them, you would leash them, you would lasso them to a fence post, and then they would dig out in a spherical area around the fence post, but that included underneath it. So after a while, you would come back and you just have a bundle of goblins just sort of like bouncing at the underneath this fence post. It was hilarious, but also potentially deadly for the goblins. So if we go to get nearest block, this one's pretty clever because I've tried to make this as efficient, as low impact as possible, because I basically have to search an area of blocks and that can get very expensive. So we get the block and the metadata of it that we are looking for, so because we only want to be digging out one kind of block. And then, starting from a 3x3 area, and expanding out gradually to a 16x16 area, so a full chunk, from the original place, not the current place, the original, when this whole task started, we try to check only the newest ring. So we gradually expand outwards, which means that the first time we find one of these blocks, it's going to be the nearest one. And then we check also from the level of the original block to up to either 4 blocks up or the height of the mob, whichever is higher. Which, strictly speaking, means if you have a giant mining for you, they'll actually pull out entire columns. Although, good luck convincing a giant to be a laborer. And then we just check for whether the navigator can get a path to it, that sort of thing. That might also be what's going wrong, I'm not sure. Right, let's just take both of those out and see if that gets it to work. What's the other thing? Yeah, we are. Yeah. Just take out the paths and see if that gets the quarry working. So yeah, again, searching big sections, especially 16x16x4 kind of like lumps of blocks, is a lot. Like, how many blocks is that? 4,096. If I didn't have the gradually growing section, and if I didn't make sure we only got the latest kind of ring, that would be 4,096 tested blocks every single time it finishes the current block. Not good, suffice to say. So, yeah, naturally, wanted to make sure that was efficient. To a fault, there are some things you can't really, reduce in that fashion. The room analysis for the hives is one example. Yeah, you just sort of gotta go big on that one, unfortunately. But, whew. Yeah, especially if you have multiple mobs mining, you don't want that to be too high. You want to keep the overhead low. But okay, let's see if we have changed up how Jared mines. So, if we tell him to mine, he should just only take out the one block we were pointing at. If we tell him to quarry, You should take out the first block and then progressively out the nearest ones. I have a sneaking suspicion that's not going to be the case, but let's find out, shall we? Yeah, the little, like, witchery goblins were cute, but limited, to say the least. Certainly by comparison. Okay, so step 1, can you mine? Yes, you can. Very good, Jared. Next question, can you quarry? Still not quite. Okay, so what? We need to figure out what's going wrong there. Jared, could you stand there, please? Thank you. Oh, I love how responsive that is. Like, I just point and I click one button and off he goes. Oh. I don't have to write an order on, like, a potato. I don't have to, like, take out a special item or anything. I just point, click, done. Oh, it's glorious. I love that. And yes, I am poking fun at myself there a little bit. But in my defense, that was the best I could do at the time. Okay. So what's causing us to stop when we should be quarrying? That's the question here. Let's see if we actually find a point. Because that might mean there's something wrong here. In fact, if we wanted to, we could just hardcode next position to be just like the one to the left or something. Which we might if we see problems further. Also, don't ask why I called him Jared. I have no idea, honestly. I think I've been watching a bunch of Silicon Valley clips recently, so maybe I named him Jared from that, but just yeah, which it's honestly really tragic that Witchery hasn't updated since I think 2017. I know that there's a sort of like successor mod to that people have been trying to bring up, but it's honestly kind of depressing because Witchery legit actually had like some of the most interesting and new and innovative kind of like ideas. Okay, so we did get a next mining position. So something happened to prevent that from doing anything. Interesting. Okay, so this was the position. There is some bias with the get nearest block, so it always starts at the negatives. And then it works its way around. But okay, so Jared, why did you get the next mine position and then fail? That's the question. If the next position doesn't equal null, then that should be your next thing. I'm guessing... hang on. If we say target position, like maybe it's something to do with the actual like marking part. So target position equals next position. Mining time equals mining timer. We actually need to have mining time be 0. Call that -1. Good. Okay, and then that'll update the target state anyways. Not that it'll matter too much there. Is there anything else we need here? Target position is air. It'll stop it automatically anyways. Just add a X this out here so we can see when we clear the mark. That way we can tell when it's actually just giving up entirely. In nature's Oreo of altars like in Farmcraft, but also powder like you would draw on the ground with witchery. I mean, neither of those were innovative to either of those mods. I've definitely heard a lot of people talk about astral sorcery, which I haven't remotely checked out. But yeah, witchery did a lot of innovative stuff. Like, it continues more or less to be the thing of every mod has its own mega powerful armor or whatever, because it needs to. You need it. They use that as like a shorthand for, well, here's a reason to actually try this mod. Witchery didn't do that. Most of its, pretty much all I think of its armors don't really exceed like iron level, let alone okay, Jared. Let alone the what's the phrase? Let alone like leather. Okay, quarry. Okay, there you go. Good, Jared. Okay, so it was to do somewhat with our clearing. That was what was causing the problem then. So it's hard-coded to take a second every single time. But, yay! So he's targeted for grass. So if he runs out of grass, he won't actually get rid of it. But if we plunk something like wool right here, doesn't care. He's only after grass. Very good, Jared. Very good. It'd be interesting to try and make it in a spiral, but that's a whole other kettle of fish on optimizations. One other thing I would like to do is to actually like make a list of all of the valid blocks within the latest ring and then randomly select between them, so it's not just or at least select like the one that's closest to the mob. So it's not this kind of rigorous pattern. Looks a bit more organic that way. Like, we can see here, he's just going backwards and forwards because those are the closest ones they find. But, okay. Very good, Jared. Stand there for me. Just undo all of your hard work. Mostly because I like my test worlds to look a little bit neat and tidy. Okay. We can also tell him to get on the horse to do that, but we'll save that for later. Okay, so let's reinstate the pathing that we had previously. And see it still works. As an astral sorcery skyblock now. Oh dear. Good luck with that. I've only ever played skyblock in vanilla. I have no intention of playing any of the modded ones, because they're beyond me. Okay, so this is the fun and entertaining thing where if we found the problem, nothing changes. Could I in theory may set up a schematic type system and make them build, or would that encroach too much on mine colonies territory? I mean, screw mine colonies, I made Yog Dwarfs. Like, I'm not concerned about that. Like, the bulk of the marking system used for or giving orders to the companions is based on ping. For crying out loud, it was heavily inspired by ping. But the trouble with telling them to build is not so much the schematic part as coordinating them. so that they're not just like standing at the corner edge and then just the blocks are appearing. They look much more smart when they actually have to try figure out how they should go through it. Jared, get back there. The task doesn't currently have mutex bits, so it doesn't realize that it shouldn't be letting him wander off. But okay. That's good. That's good. Yeah, it's just basically it's basically just a question of like overhead, suffice to say. Here for the quarrying and the mining, we're mostly just like giving them the advantage of us being clever to make themselves look clever. So there's a piece of grass that just grew on the bottom level there that Jared is not remotely interested in because it's just like below the area where he started. You having trouble there? Let's see. Next to my position, no. Okay. Because you couldn't find one that you could path to. Probably because you were slightly mid-air at the time. Okay. Thank you once again, Jared. Yeah, mining is relatively simple to optimize in that regard. You just give them like a mathematical pattern or some such. But building is like even if you just say, okay, go from the bottom up. Okay, chandeliers. Chandeliers need to be placed from the top down. Like there's a lot more thought to be had there. You can use schematics and such, and there was building inside of Young Dwarfs, and it basically relied on the dwarves having the block in their inventory that needed to be placed, and then having a line of sight, or being able to get a line of sight to where the block needed to be placed, and there was also like a subtask for the miners that they would dig out areas that needed like digging out, that sort of thing. So building is possible, it's just complex as hell. Okay, so that seems to work, except for that part. So let's get the mutex bits in. Now let's see, motion, look, and head, so we want value 3, I think. That should mean that he doesn't try to like bounce or such. Let's see, that's fine for the moment, that's fine for the moment. We could make it much lower and just have him go. In fact, yeah, sure, let's do that. Let's make it 5 ticks rather than 20. Just for the sake of hilarity more than anything else. And I think we can get rid of that as well. Okay. Talking of Young Dwarfs, actually, I was reminded of the work I did getting military formations to work. Way back in the day, and I was really proud of that. Like, it was gorgeous to watch. Watching all of these dwarves in a rigid formation, and then when you told the formation to change, only the ones that needed to move actually did. Oh. It was beautiful. I could probably do that a little better these days, but I've been looking it up a little bit recently because I want to try and get some rough basis for that, because I've been looking over how to redo the group code, which is currently used exclusively by raptors, but if you can actually like assemble an undead horde, for instance, which is something you could totally do, you should absolutely be able to have them stand in formation or attack things intelligently, or at least as intelligent as most undead tend to be. Yep, there we go. Skeleton Gober. Skeleton gets slightly confused because he ducked out underneath his own feet. Okay, come here. No. Here. Okay. Quarry that. Get back here, Jared. Come on. Yeah, I think I see what's going on here. He's jumping, for whatever reason. That's breaking his pathing, and that's causing him to stop mining. Okay. So we possibly need a timer to allow for whether he's on the ground. It's difficult to make these mobs look intelligent as such, on the basis of you're giving them commands. And I think I described it in like Modding Embed Mod on the Discord, that there's your employee, which is functionally what these companions are, doing what you tell them to do, and your employee doing what you would have told them to do, but taking initiative and doing it before you tell them to. One of these things looks significantly more intelligent. But there's a question then of how much autonomy we actually want to give the, let's see, nope. There should be a thing of can path. I don't see it there. Okay, let's try the mob. Move helper. Nope. Okay. So we'll just check if it's on the ground then. So if you're on the ground and you can't get a path to it, then we'll presume that there's no path to it. That's the quickest, easiest thing. And let's also set you to actually look at where you're trying to go as well. Which we'll actually put down here. Okay. So look at the block and move towards it. Mine it, and if you're on the land, then yeah. Now our skeleton should know a bit better about how to make a quarry. There was another suggestion I had inside of Modding Embed Mod recently, which was I've been watching an anime from like 2017, I think, called Knights and Magic. And it's basically what has become fairly commonly known as an isekai. Someone from our world or something very similar to it gets dropped by whatever means into a different world, frequently with magic and superpowers, and quite frequently extremely power fantasy skill sets. But specifically, it interests me because, in this case, it's mech-oriented. The main character loves mechs in our world, and it goes this one, there's giant magic-powered mechs. But the main character was a programmer in our world. So he goes over to this new world and he discovers, oh, the magic here works a lot like coding. And it's just like, I've loved seeing that come all the way through, because it's not just main character gets a mech and uses their programming as a superpower kind of stuff. No, it's the mechs that exist might as well be a suit of armor compared to modern power armor kind of thing. So he has to do the in-between engineering, and you see that step by step, and I've loved that so much. Yes, gun ones, because they use stabs, but he realized they could probably make it more precise if it had like a rifle kind of style thing. And it doesn't do what Irregular in Magic High School does as well, where it's just like, okay, yeah, this is just taken as a given now. We just have guns that do magic stuff now. It's like, no, this is much better. Okay, let's see how your quarrying goes now. Nope, still broke. Interesting. Okay, so we still have some problems. Jared, could you stand here, please? Thank you. I love how smooth that is. Oh. But yeah, so that, and then dim memories of Irregular in Magic High School, which similarly has you program magic spells, which was the inspiration for, I think it was Vazki's mod Psi, PSI, not to be confused with PSI being pounds per square inch, which is a like steam kind of powered kind of thing in a lot of mods. Also, like, which also had you use an in-game compiler to write scripts that made spells that you could use. And I thought, if I had made a compiler, I could theoretically allow people to program specific behaviors for their companions and have them do very clever things, like actually automate your home, which is like the kind of thing that a homunculus might do, or switch their weaponry based on the distance to their target, so that they have like a bow in their main inventory, they swap to that and some arrows whenever they're like beyond melee range, or that sort of thing. The immediate response to this inside of the Modding Ib 1 channel was nope, 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 nope. Which was entertaining, suffice to say. Okay, so what was going wrong there? I think the problem was here. So, what do we do next? We could just get rid of that entirely. Because if we get one that we can't have to anyways, it'll get clipped by the top one. So, let's just get rid of that. Because I don't think it was that. Need to get up and do laundry? Go do laundry then. Fresh clothes are a good feel, my dude. Okay, I think I have like a few seconds before my first break here, let's see. Oh yeah, another thing that we're going to encounter is that the Mage Hand has a lot of checking for what block you're pointing at before it even considers trying to activate it. Because there is nothing inside of the vanilla code that I'm aware of that defines, yes, this can be activated. You just sort of activate it, and then it tells you if you succeeded. Yay, skeleton goober. But there is definitely some improvements to be made here. Okay. With that, I'll be back in about 10 minutes. See you then. Welcome back, everybody. So, just as we left there, Jared, our testing... Where did I get Elliot from? Okay, of course, Elliot Page. Jared, our testing skeleton, has gotten pretty clever about how he digs out an area. But he could still use some work, as we'll see pretty much right now. Yeah, he just goes to... He goes to opposing ends, and that's not a very organic kind of way. Admittedly, you are a skeleton, so I suppose that's asking a bit much. But it's not a very organic way of actually mining out an area. Nor is it necessarily the most expedient, and we want to make this reasonably expedient. So let's see... Grass. There you go. Gotta be careful doing that in 1.16, because grass then becomes the actual, like, bush grass. But okay. So let's try and make this a little smarter. We want to try and get all of the available ones. We want to root out any that the mob currently cannot see. Or, should we actually make... No, we should... Well, side will be added in later. This will be the third mod in your packs that adds NPCs that can mine and quarry. I mean, if you're gonna, like, give them commands, that feels like being able to interact with the blocks makes the most sense. So, let's make ourselves a list of block positions. So, call it valid blocks. Okay. Valid blocks. If valid blocks isn't empty by the time that it's done, then we know that there's something going on anyways. Oh, apologies, bridge. So if valid blocks is not empty, we find the block that is nearest to the actual mob, which will then mean that we'll actually go properly. It will go, like, along and around and whatnot. A bit better. So for that, we could do a sort, or we could just do a quick loop. Either one's not really going to be very efficient, so... But fortunately, these should be relatively short. So, let's see, for block position, pos in valid blocks. Double minimum distance is the max value, which means it can pretty much only go down. So distance to the mob's position. And if min dist is lower, if dist is lower than min dist, rather. Then closest equals pos, and min dist equals dist. That will get us the shortest, the closest one. And then if closest... I mean, by that, if we have a valid block, there is no way that this could possibly return a null. So, at that stage, just return closest. There. Okay. Alright. So we've got the same kind of checking, and now we just have it actually selecting the closest one. In theory, if we can see one, we should prioritize that, but that's our next check up here. So, get the distance, yes, so it's either that or our mob can't actually see the target block, in which case we want to keep trying to move close to it. So another question is, does it have if it has any exposed side? But that could get really messy. But we don't really want them to be mining through walls, is the thing. That's the main problem. We don't really see that right now because the skeleton is just mining out the top layer of stuff. But we don't. But currently the skeleton is absolutely going directly through intervening blocks. Skeleton's the most organic you can get. I mean, I guess technically speaking, calcium is an organic compound, I guess. Okay, so let's see how this changes up Jared's mining pattern. Okay, Jared, once more, please. Okay, so it's actually spreading out now. Very good. So because it's now dependent upon relation to our skeleton, it actually looks more like it's trying to actually go to the closest ones. Very good. Hey! Okay, so all we need now is a check for where we can see them, and we should be pretty close to a decently organic mining pattern. Very good. Accidentally targeted Jared there. Jared, you're not going to be there in a hot moment. There you go. Can you get out of there? No? I can't heal you, but, you know, let's send over here, please. Okay. So let's add in our check for can we see it? So if our distance to that is like so, where do we want to do this check? Obviously we shouldn't do it where we start. We want to check if we can actually get there first. Get to within range. So try to move, and if we are within range, then we need to check if we can actually see it before we start mining. So let's see, we've got our target position, we know where our lock position will be, so call it I position. Okay, so that is the location of the mob's eyes, which is the point from which they're looking around. They don't have binocular vision, exactly, but it's there. So now we need a ray trace. So ray trace results, trace equals the world ray trace. Our start is the eyepass, and our end will be the position of the block that we're looking for. And we'll aim for the core of it. And if trace does not equal null, or actually, it's either trace equals null, or trace dot, let's see, get block position does not equal target position. In which case we want to Ooh, how do we want to handle this? Do we just want to give up entirely? Or do we want to actually, like, say, do something else? I think for the sake of not causing problems, or causing as few problems as we can, we'll clear the mark and return. So we'll just give up. But okay. There's a question here of, do we want to actually stop on liquid? We probably don't. Definitely want to ignore blocks about a bounding box. So let's see, stop on liquid, false. Ignore blocks of bounding box, true. And return last uncollidable, did that say? Last uncollidable. Not quite sure what it means by that exactly, but I guess there's a way to find out. Just let it. So what I'd like to do is identify the ray trace results that have entity returns. And I want to see if that's done here, but I don't think it is. Okay, so we do a check, see if we can actually see it from where we presumably are within range, and then off we go. And just for funsies, let's make our skeleton even more brrr. So it takes 1/8 of a second. No matter the block. Yeah, I think we mentioned just before the break there the idea of an actual programmable system for giving commands and such to your companions and such, and I think that would be really cool to have. That would definitely be... Okay, so you've definitely got a problem. That would certainly be, like, actually meaningfully interested, and very useful, certainly. It would be niche as all hell. Don't get me wrong, because I know the programming aspects of Psi is what put a lot of people off it in the first place. But if we've got this system that says that you can, if we've got the system that says that you can easily like just tell your mobs to do like standard basic things, or you can actually like program them and tell them to do really smart things, then I think it shouldn't be quite as big a problem. Okay, just encapsulate that up there. So keep trying to move closer. Until we in fact can generate no path. Which should force them to actually try and move around. something for later. Definitely, that'll be probably more around the 1.16 versions than the 1.12. But hoo boy, am I excited for that day. Because I've never written a compiler, and that'll be interesting. If the development of, like, Young Dwarves and various oddities has shown anything, it's that I chiefly program whatever interests me. I may be capable of many other things, but the thing I'm gonna be doing is chiefly what interests me. Okay, so didn't quite have range there. Yeah. Okay, we've definitely still got a problem. Most probably with the arguments I gave here. Last uncollidable, that might be the problem. Come to think of it. Yes, I know I'm on the wrong screen. Give me a second. Okay, give that another try. No, we've still got problems. Okay. I'm trying to think, is there anything that is there anything that specifically does something similar to this? Oh, we can check ray traces, that's for sure. Let's see, conveyors, nope. The golden laser is an idea. Hit vector, could that be? Trying to think, how do we... Do we check the type of hit, maybe? Enum is. Blip. There. Type. Lord. There are so many, like, type is such a common word as well. Ugh. There we are. So to remind, what we're trying to do here is make it so that our mob actually has to be able to see the blocks before it mines them out. It otherwise would just be mining them out through the wall. And we don't want to see that. Now this does still sort of give the mob, like, the best way I can describe this is that when a player is mining in Minecraft, they generally have what is functionally a fog of war, which is that until they've explored an area, they don't know what resources are in it. The mob, on the other hand, has direct access to the world state, so knows exactly where all of the iron blocks are, for instance. So even if it can't necessarily, like, see a given ore, it knows it's there. But I guess if there wasn't some kind of upside to, like, telling a mob to go and do the digging for you, you probably wouldn't do it in the first place anyways. So was it... Interestingly enough, it does not appear to have been can see block that caused it to break. Huh. Because I don't see any reference to that. Interesting, yeah. There is no sys out down here. So this appears to be working fine. The evil mod that gave you mining goblins allowed you to be good or evil depending on your actions. I don't remember that function. I don't remember a Minecraft mod with a morality system like that. Oh yes, there's a... I should mention, with stuff like the follow, there is a teleport function. So you can have your companions actually teleport to you. The condition to it, however, is that they have to have first at one point been close enough to you. So, if you have only just told them to follow you, they will not teleport to you. That's a balancing touch, because you can technically give these orders a substantial distance away, so being able to just teleport in like a battalion of enemies, not that great. Okay, so, what's going on? If it's beyond the maximum to the, like, maximum reach, or we can't see it. We know that we know by the fact that there's no output here from when this fails, unless it's happening here. So let's see what we get there. The evil minions mod. Huh. That rings some kind of bell. Let's see if I can dig that up real quick. Oh lord. Let's see. Minions. The Minions mods, Evil Minions, Minecraft Minions. There's a bunch here. Okay, this one's from like 2018, so I'm guessing it's the one that we're talking about. Okay, yeah, this is definitely pretty old. Because here's what the mod page looks like. Oh dear. Alright. So we're just going to tell you to do some quarrying. And then going to check out the output and see what the result is. And intriguingly enough, it appears to be exactly identical, but has nonetheless stopped. So there's a problem here. This isn't updating, so I know it's actually stopped. Which is that these are probably evidently not being read as equivalent. There's the picture of it in Central 2. Okay, I'll check that in a whole moment then. What's the easiest way to tell if two coordinates are the same? Check if their distance is lower than 1, or is essentially 0. It's a bit more complicated than just asking our the three individual coordinates. When you use the Minions mod staff, it would ask you to commit to evil. Well, there's a statement. Various Oddities doesn't... Yeah, Various Oddities has some concept of good and evil at the very least, but it doesn't really bind you to either. Oh yeah, I do remember that mod. I definitely haven't, like, played it, but I recognize that. I recognize that model. Comically evil kind of evil, so sort of like Dungeon Keeper. Okay, Jared, let's try this again, shall we? There you go. Skeleton Gonium. Hey. Pretty good, I think. I mean, it's still rigorously programmatic, but he is actually doing... He's doing it in a relatively, like, organic manner. Pretty good. Now I actually do need to tell him to stop, because he's going to break my circle otherwise. But, hey, congrats. Graveyard... No, Dungeon Keeper. It's a much older series. Graveyard Keeper is a fairly recent one. Okay, let's set you up with a slightly more complicated kind of plan here. So, let's grab ourselves some stone, some iron, okay, add some sprinklings of iron in vague and strange ways. And then let's lift this up to about there. Okay. I'm so glad you went there. Okay, now let's just dig a couple of tunnels. Indicating that, I don't know, maybe there's maybe we've been tunneling a little bit around here. Maybe we're trying to make a branch mine, that sort of thing. Okay. We're gonna put a lid on that. Come on, over here. I know you can. I need to take out your wonder, I think. Over here. Thank you. Okay. Quarry, only iron. Apparently you've already failed somehow. Game Overlord is the spiritual successor to keep it. There's also Dungeons, which is personally one of my favorites. Okay, well, you're getting better here. Okay, so there are still points of failure here. Although I'm not entirely certain what they are. Like, the ideal here is that we... Well, I suppose what you are far more likely to do, really, is to just tell him to quarry stone. But evidently there's a failure state there too. Can I tell you to quarry that without you having any trouble? Apparently not. I think what's happening is the ray trace from his head is hitting the block above. I think that's what keeps happening here. Over here, please, Jared. Okay. So, how do we fix that? We could try checking for multiple points. So currently we're just checking the middle, but if we checked the, like, corners as well, then that might give us a better picture of whether or not we can see it. Which would be surprisingly equivalent to how Sam Fisher gets detected in some more recent Spec Ops games. Is it Spec Ops? I don't recall. Sam Fisher, like the free green lights stealth game guy. Splinter Cell, thank you, sir. Dungeon Keeper was released in '97, so well, you don't know it. I mean, fair. It's sort of legendary. was wondering, hang on, did I just overwrite something? No, I did not. There it is. Okay, so now we check the cardinal points of it. And if we can see any of those, we know we found it. Let's also go to the in-between points. So 0.5 full 1, so that would be value over 2. So if any of those returns true, then we know, yeah, we can see it. Theoretically, we should actually be asking for more than that, but... Looks like it's on the origin? No, this should be definitely returning at the right points. As far as I can tell, anyways. So it tries to get within range. If it's still not within, not able. Oh, sorry, Rainier, you're not referring to origin positions and coordinates. Sorry, my mistake. Oh, the origin game launcher. Yeah, if you want to try something similar to Dungeon Keeper, then the most modern equivalent I can think of that's actually good, at the very least, would be the Dungeons series. Dungeons, I think 3 is the one I played a lot of. Let me see. Just want to boot into this. Let me check. Dungeons 3, yeah. It also has a ton of DLC. So you tend to have a lot of stuff to work with. Okay. I feel like you missed a piece. But you are definitely quarrying, I can say that much. At least, and definitely in this context, the ever-expanding range is helping us to helping to ensure that we don't end up with. Okay, we still have a failure state. Dang it! Okay, we definitely want to try and make that work, though. Let's restock this. Fairly similar, but more recent is Overload. Yeah. Over here, please, Jared. Because we don't actually have like an enduring AI task related to moving him around like that, he does tend to give up after a while. Like, you just stand there, please. So what do we think could have been the problem with that one? Probably that he tried to go upstairs, at a guess. Well, for the overlords, like Overlord combined with Dungeon Keeper, more RTS than Dungeon Manager. Yeah, those are like Dungeon Keeper inspired and more or less an entire genre after it. I think I think this genre existed before that, but it sort of became the preeminent example. I'm trying to think here. We don't want this to be ludicrously powerful and complicated, because that's not really what these tasks are for. But as a general rule, you think a character is substantially more stupid if you tell it to do a thing and it fails. Suffice it to say. So we want to have as few failure states as we can. And I'll figure out the mining and the timing like, later, because for that I'll have to spoof players, and that's gonna get very dull to watch. Suffice to say. Could always just not have that break, I guess. Like, there's a possibility, they just continually try. That's probably better, honestly. Yeah, I think we just not have that break. But yeah, if you want like a game like Dungeon Keeper, then I hardly recommend Dungeons. Dungeons Free is really good. Realm Forge did some really fun stuff with that. Also, the narrator, I don't know the identity of the narrator in Dungeons Free, but it sounds extremely close to the Stanley Parable narrator. So yeah, check that out if you enjoyed that voice. Okay. So before I take my next break, can we get Jared to mine out a whole ton of stuffs here? And I know you won't, but let's test having some non-stone in here as well. Okay. So quarry, there. Yeah, you're missing that section. And I think I know what the failure point is there. Okay. Remember that I added the thing to make sure it was always the outermost ring. I think that what's happening here is that it's actually, because it's starting at 0, it's missing that first initial Y column. So, if range is 0, then we need to actually check that. But I don't think you're going to wake up for that, so, apologies there. But thankfully, your marking doesn't change. Only inside the AI does it do that. I believe in you, Jared. Yeah. Clap your... Screms in chat for Jared, everybody. He needs all the support. Okay. We've spent 2 hours getting a skeleton to dig blocks in Minecraft. Wow. Baritone, this is not. Okay, head back there for me. I'll fill this back in. Over you come. Interesting, you still missed it. So what's happening is he's not getting this column. And I'm not certain of the reason for that. And because he's not getting the column, he's not able to get the rest of them. Even though he thinks he should be able to. We could ask him to just, like, when he's checking for nearest block, we can't just skip ones he can't see. There's an idea. Come on. Out you come. Here. Jared, come on. Over here. Thank you. Okay. So if range is greater than 0, and the absolute values of x and z are both lower than range, which is to say if they're in the middle rather than at the outer edges, then skip. But if range is 0... Actually, range might never be 0, that could be the problem. Yeah, I think range might be 0. We do it like that, though. Not necessarily, because at that point it'll still be 0. Just a little bit of reorganizing. So it calls it, and then it realized, hang on, it calls it, and then it checks for the search, at which point it was probably realizing that the range and the way it was managed there was always bigger than 0. So hopefully, now it works better. We can add ray traces, but we'll also have to manage for the, I think in that case we have to do the range trace when we're selecting the block. So can the mob see it? If the mob can see it, I guess we could halve the distance or something to that effect. Hence prioritizing ones that they can see. Okay, Jared. Let's see if you get this column. Hey, you got it! Skeleton go burr! And he's missing the iron ore as well. Good. Just gonna take a screenshot of that, because that's nice. Yeah, this is probably how you would actually use it. You could theoretically have them be mining out iron and whatnot, using them a little bit like sniffer dogs that way, but having them mine out all the cobble, all the stone and such is probably much easier. You're doing great, honey. Okay, let's have you stand back here, please. Yeah, immediately wanders. I need to consider that at some point. Okay. I might need to turn going to a position into its own thing, but bleh, it's fine. Okay. So if we can see the block, then we should also halve the actual calculated distance, thereby prioritizing ones we can see over ones we can't. Since it's based on proximity and such, it shouldn't be too big of an issue, but I'd prefer to have that than not. There. So it gets all of the potential target blocks, and then it prioritizes ones that the mob can actually see. Very good. If there's none that it can see, it'll still treat them all the same. If they're all the same, if they can all be seen, then also treats the same. But yeah, good. Okay, I think this part's done. So I'll see you all in 10 minutes. Welcome back, everybody, to the final hour of our evening tonight, and we have successfully gotten mining and quarrying out of the way, so there is, I believe, more or less, only one behavior outstanding that, Jared the Testing Skeleton cannot currently do, which is activate a position. Namely, push a button, flip a switch, that sort of thing. So, there's like more details that I need for guarding as well, but activating a position is the thing that has currently nothing. So, much in the same way as just picking up an item, we need to actually path over to it if we're too far away, that sort of thing. So, we're gonna more or less be coding actually pretty much the same code as mine. So call that activate. And we don't need mining at all, we just need, I guess a target state might help. We do need our maximum range to know, like, how far is our reach, I'd guess. Should continue executing. Assuming we have no attack target. Is this something you want to... Is activating a block something that we should allow in the middle of combat? There's a question. Okay, so... Unlike mining, we need to know very precious little. So, move towards it, and again, check if we can see it. So all of that is fine. And let's see, we don't need to know about the mining time. It's just a matter of the mob swinging their arm, looking at the block, and actually calling the activate code, which I believe should be inside here. So activate block. There we are. So, on block activated. Called by an owner. Now here's the problem. I'm pretty sure on block activated requires an entity player. I don't think there's anything we can do to replace that. Let's open up block pressure plates real quick. Just as some kind of idea. So let's see. Neighbor changed, can place on, update tick. Entity collide. You just update it, okay. Update state. Yeah, okay. Whereas if we check block button, I think we might be able to get away with just having a null player. I think it might not care for the most part. And that, yeah, click sound is nullable. Okay, so this might cause problems, but we're just gonna do that. So the world, the target position, the state, give it a null for that. Enum hand, we'll say it's always the main. The sides, I don't know that it worries about. But we could try and calculate that. And I almost think it definitely isn't going to care about the hit sides. For right now, we'll just say up, because why not? Okay. And then we clear the mark. Add an actual qualifier here. Only actually do the activation part if the block that is there when we get there is the same as we expect it to be. So if it's changed, such as maybe a piston happened or an explosion happened or something, then we'll not do that. Oh, actually, should we have that up here? Maybe that should be its own separate thing. So if it changes en route, then it'll also stop. What are you yelling at me for down here? Oh, all these other things that we no longer need in the slightest fashion. There we go. So we do need that part. And I might move that into the companion base up here, just because that's actually a pretty handy thing to know. Who knows, maybe even put that in VO helper. Okay. That looks all good to me. Now again, we're having as few fail states as possible without making this ludicrously complicated. This should be actually, theoretically, the easiest possible thing we could have. I think it's good. Okay. Oh, would also help if I actually plugged that into our skeleton, wouldn't it? I can't think of any meaningful variations on this theme. There's a variation on guard, there's a variation on item, there's a variation on follow, that sort of thing, but can't think of anything for activate. If you can think of something, let me know. I suppose theoretically we could activate an entity, like right-clicking on an item frame or something. But that gets into much more complicated territory, because then it has to interact with your inventory, or rather the mob's inventory. And what happens if you tell them to interact? What happens if you tell them to activate a villager, for instance? And yeah, interact meaning like to right-click, really. In Minecraft that generally means like opening a chest, pushing a button, or opening a trade window in the case of villagers, that sort of thing. Right-click can also mean place, but we're not doing that currently. Okay, Jared, if I tell you to activate that, good heck all happens. Right, let's bring out a lever. And it's just for visual purposes, let's also have that. Apparently I'm staring at Jared here, that's not... Thankfully, I've done that before. I've made that mistake before. Okay, interesting. Why... You activated that. So why did you not activate that? Oh, no, sorry, not synonyms. Not synonyms for activate, no. Okay, so what in this code could be preventing? Can't see it or is too far. Do levers not have a hitbox? There's a thought. Levers might not have a hitbox. Let's check block lever. I'm pretty sure buttons don't either. Yeah, collision box is null. I think that's the problem. Okay, in that case, we need to alter this, because ignore block without bounding box is true, which not so good for us. Return last uncollidable block. True, I think, in this case. I'm hoping it skips over air, but I guess we'll see. Minecraft, once again, making things difficult. I can also activate literally any block, which, on the plus side, means you can tell them to activate, like, any manner of modded block whatsoever, as well as stuff like redstone ore, which is something you can interact with to, like, add a bit of light in a tough situation. But there is nothing in Minecraft that says this block can be activated. Should be a pain in the neck, but oh well. Hey, Bull, good to see you. Welcome to the final, like, half hour of the stream, but hey. Well, we add tunnel and shaft mining. Probably not within the commands that you can give. The commands are, like, the commands that you give with just key bindings. Is that too difficult? No! You kidding? No. I've made military formations, for crying out loud. Like, basically nothing in nothing in various oddities is remotely holding a candle to the complexity of Young Dwarfs back in, like, 1.7 or whatever it was. But, tunnel and shaft mining, branch mining, just full-blown quarry to bedrock, that sort of stuff, that's probably not, that's probably too much for just, like, a point-and-do-it kind of command. That requires, like, probably a designated region. Okay. Let's see if we can match this. Okay, very good. Let's give you a button as well. Give that a test. Can use them to activate TNT. Yep. Very good. Okay. And if I tell you to activate this one on the other side... Very clever. Good, good, good. Go activate that iron block for whatever reason. Yeah. Very good. Okay. Good, good, good. Very clever, Jared. Yeah, so telling him to just, like, dig out this area, dig out, like, that command, the quarry command currently in this context amounts to remove all the stone in an X by X area, basically. But actually telling them to do substantially more complicated behaviors, like building a branch mine, or a quarry to bedrock, or building anything, really, is significantly more complicated and probably would necessitate actual, like, structures in place. Later on, I might have a command to just, like, a command more or less along the lines of establish, and then it'll, like, open a window and you'll select what you want to put there and any kind of, like, sub-values of that. But, not this version. But being able to set up, like, a multi-companion quarry, like, Jared is not going to be as fast as he is today, in that case. Not remotely. He'll actually need pickaxes and whatnot. But in that event, yeah, we'll probably have, like, actual more complex plans then. here. Herald. Here you go, Jared, you're free now. Just now reminds you of Chen Gon's NP. I have no idea what that is. Send the NPC to die by getting them to pull the lever. That is also something that you can do if, for instance, you have a summoned creature that you don't care about too much. Like, if you want them to go in... Oh, Noble Phantasm. I see, right. Of course I wouldn't know that part. That's fate. Right. So we've got mining, we've got activation. Is there anything else we can think of? Well, one thing I can think of is to actually add, like, a lang here. Because currently it just says the, like, thing without saying what. So let's see, mine. Plus, all you need to do is make him put materials in a chest. That is another thing, but that is probably getting a bit more complicated, and certainly too complicated for a skeleton. Think of it as a hero. Yes, I'm aware of what a noble phantasm is, which might be the nerdiest thing that I've said in a long while, and this is a programming stream. Let's see. What would you? Summoned creature. Yes. The skeleton that we're using is actually a test case, but it's meant to be something that you create with the spell Animate Dead. But we also have a variety of summoned creatures that you can have right now, so the Mount is a summoned horse that can't breed and can't carry any items, but has maxed out stats. It's temporary, it does go away after a long while. We have the Mage Hand, which can hold things, no clip, and also like activate blocks. And then we have the Floating Disc, which technically serves as a mount, but it also specifically follows you, and is basically a floating chest for the most part. So yeah, summoned creatures are a thing, and they're going to be expanding quite a bit now that I've made it like actually like viable to control them. Like that's basically what we've been doing here. Is the companion system, as it's described, is a system of being able to hands-free-ish control like mobs to do what you want. Which is rather integral to making good use out of summoned creatures, because just spawning mobs is easy. Actually getting them to do what you want, harder. And it kind of sucks if you have to go into a UI screen every single time to tell them to do something. So, magic mod. This is a straight up Dungeons and Dragons mod, so yes, there's magic. But okay, dig out around. Blah. That said, we don't currently have dungeons or, in fact, dragons. But the tagline for various oddities is that it is the monster manual of Minecraft. It turns out when you add giants and trolls and whatnot to Minecraft, it gets a bit more dangerous. So we had to add in other things. Correct, Soul. We do currently have a T-Rex. We also have Velociraptor Jurassic Park version, as well as realistic version, murder turkeys. Also, the T-Rex can summon them. The raptors are particularly mean because they're the only mob currently in this mod that uses the group system, which means they coordinate their attacks. And they do that by surrounding you, so that when one of them attacks you and knocks you slightly back, the next one can get into you and just keep you in place. They're vicious as hell. And I think originally the Velociraptors getting in on the Microraptors teams was just like a coding error, but it was entertaining, so we just kept that. Murder turkeys that can enter your home. Yes, because they're the height of a baby zombie. Okay, that's the lang added. Okay. So yeah, something that we want to do is make it clearer as to like what the next thing in the loop is when you're scrolling through. So you have a better idea of exactly where you're going. through the door? Oh yeah, they can open doors. Because of course they can open doors. Jurassic Park taught us that raptors can open doors. It's just, of course. Which is a little difficult for them originally, because being smaller than, like, a player, like being the height of a baby zombie, the Microraptors couldn't collide properly with the door to open it. So, we had to fuzz things up a little bit there. But okay, so we already know, well, the system knows the full list of available actions before you've even selected one, because it has to know what you're cycling through to. So the next thing would be to have some kind of on-screen display, a HUD, as it were, that shows what the actions are as you're cycling through them. That way you have a better idea of left and right where you need to go. And these are ordered such that the ones you are most frequently you're likely to use most frequently, are the ones that are the ones that start up. Which probably should say that I should have go-to be higher than attack mob, come to think of it, because I've said accidentally attack Jared so many times already tonight. That's fine though, wouldn't change anything. Let's see, pick up item only happens with items, that's fine. Should guard come before or after quarry? I feel like quarry might... Mine and quarry up, yeah. Activate mine and quarry are probably the three least used, commonality-wise positions. But yeah, let me see, what do we have? We've got a fair few things these days. Let's see, we've got kobolds, pegasi, goblins, trolls, ogres, griffins, monkeys, mimics, giant crabs, and regular-sized crabs. We have ravens, scorpions, and giant scorpions, rats and giant rats, giants and zombie giants, heavily overhauled from Minecraft, a variety of skulls, the boulettes, whose proper pronunciation I've been informed is actually boulet, but boulette sounds so much better to me, otherwise known as the land shark. We have a pair of limb, which are a special kind of nomadic tribe, zombie kobolds, wargs, which are basically really mean dogs, and wargs, which are really mean dogs, but you can ride them. We have never golems, end golems, megaraptor, velociraptor, tyrannosaurus, whales and skeleton whales. We have 2 archfey, a variety of changelings, and lightlings, which are basically ball lightning on legs, and they really don't like it when you mess with forests. And that's just the mobs. The list of spells, the magical effects you can do, is also pretty damn long. Then we also have enchantments, and a variety of items. A lot of items. With a variety of benefits. Because originally, this mod was built to be essentially a skin pack for custom NPCs. But in addition to custom NPCs being kinda niche because it requires usually creative mode setup, and heavily unreliable at scale, as it were. We tried using it on our Patreon server for a while, it did not work out well. People kept asking me to add more and more, out-of-the-box functionality, to make this more useful in just, general survival. So I did. I gave them actual functional AI, I gave them, special, behaviors and AI tasks, and then I realized, hang on, I just made the game a whole ton more dangerous. If you were near the sea, for instance, giant crabs would roam out and murder you quite happily. So, we started adding defensive options and such. But this mod is intensely customizable. So, for instance, we have a creature types system that defines, say, zombie kobolds and giant zombies as undead, which means you can repel them using the holy symbols. But if you so choose, you can take that off of them. You could say that creepers are an undead, in which case they will then be repelled by the holy symbols and such. As it happens, creepers are classified by default. You can change this as evil plants. And that has mechanical implications. You can also classify players as being golems, for instance, or slimes. And that again has actual implications. So suffice it to say, it's a pretty potent mod. Okay, so how are we going to show this? This is where we get into like UI design, and UI is not my thing. AI is my thing, if the last 2.5 hours weren't any clue to that. Yes, it is able. It is currently 1.12. We're actually working in the last version that will be in 1.12. After that will be 1.16. Which will take us a while, because there's a lot. But, what? So I'm trying to think. We ideally want it to be on a rota. Because that'll save that. Having it be in a circle will save us significantly amounts of space compared to having it be like just a list or something, or a keyboard. Lord knows. I'm trying to think though. How do we? Let me just bring up Inkscape for a hot second here. Ideally, we'd also have the marked list displayed. So like top left or something. That's just like a readout of whatever your current selected mobs are. Okay. Oh. I see what I did there. It was like, hang on, why am I off to the side? Nope. 112 better than 116? Two faults. But one of the major advantages to being on a more recent release is you have less competition. Okay, so let's say around there is your hotbar. And let's see, over here we'll say is your chat. Is there anything else? I mean, there's your health readout and whatnot. Your cursor would be in the middle of the screen. I don't know if we necessarily want to have stuff around that might obfuscate what you're looking at. And of course, a lot of people will have like a compass readout at the top or a map, that sort of thing. So we need to bear that in mind. Cursor down there. Okay, so there's a rough diagram of, if memory serves, what your screen looks like. Just check here, as an example. The mod tries to have as many things in it so that you don't have to necessarily have like 24 other mods. Which does make things get a little bit complicated at times, but it's fine. Yeah, there's also your hand over here, I guess. So, okay. Have the options radial around the cursor. That's what I was thinking, but as I just mentioned, that might be a bit busy, suffice to say. Like, if we have them radial around the cursor, let's see, duplicate that. And so control minus, there we go. So we have it do like that. Okay. Slight problem now being that you don't have very much in the way of peripheral vision. Now your chat might not be here. Your like map might not be there. In which case it's better. But I mean, in theory, we could actually just have it be a config option client-side that just selects where it appears, that sort of thing. So maybe it's a list that shows up here that you scroll up and down, or maybe it's like a almost compass wheel that you turn around, so at the top there, or even down here. Or maybe it is a radio. But suffice it to say, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, it's only going to show up when you're actually holding down the command button. So there's that. I think having it be fairly close to your cursor makes sense, because that'll mean it's most closer to where your eyeline is at the time. So if it shows up like below your cursor and it's like the currently selected one in the middle, the next one in the line off to the left, the last one and next one, then you scroll through that, then maybe that'd work better. One thing I think I do need to do is hop over to here and let's see. What do we want here? We want a list of mark subtypes. If I can type properly. Responds to marks, or marks to respond, or appropriate marks, allowed marks. I'm trying to think of a word phrase here, but yeah, go for allowed marks right now. And that's gonna cause some trouble because there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't use that right now. Yep. Our 4 companions, or configurable mods as we currently have them. So the way that it works is should respond to mark checks for the actual state controls. So for instance, the mage hand, you can toggle off whether it will actually pick up items or react to like activation commands. But this is just going to return a list, an array of all the things that it can actually do. What do the different colors mean? Whether it's a function, whether it's an input, whether it's a variable, whether it's an e-number, it's just highlighting so that I as the programmer can tell more at a glance what something is without having to check through what it is. And we gotta make sure... Well, cancel doesn't even matter. Cancel probably shouldn't be in the list there, but we should make sure to remember when we limit what you're going... when we limit what you are given in the list of selections, we should make sure to include cancel. Cancel is a very important command. And where's minute can I tap? I have no idea. I remember it being fairly high, but heck if I remember. You forgot you put a Tide Pod in. Why, Rainy, why did you have a Tide Pod in your pocket exactly? That's the greater question that I have there. Okay. Horse spell. I know that they were doing, like, laundry, but, Okay, should respond to mark, then we can actually have a default to that. Yeah, because we can just skip the contents by going through our allowed marks and see if that type in actually works for it. Didn't have free hands to carry the container of them, so you just grabbed how many you thought you needed. I see. Right. Save me some trouble later. Where are you? Nope, that's not it. There we are. Which also means I don't need to have that there. Hooray! And our Skelly Bob friend. Dear Lord. In theory, if I wanted to say you can do literally anything on the list, we can just return the values, but that's not very wise. There we go. Whew. Okay, so that fixes that. So from that we can then get, well, we can then happily query the surrounding companions when we are selecting, well, when we hit the mark button, we can find out what available marks are for the surrounding companions and then actually deliver that. In theory, if we tell our mage hand to... Since we're using a function like that, we can actually have it change based on the state of the mob. So for instance, with our mage hand spell, then in this case it actually turns off entire functions whenever its controls are set. So we could, for instance, get rid of activate position in the event that this particular mage hand has that control set, which would significantly narrow down the list of available commands whenever you do that. That would probably be pretty smart, wouldn't it? Anyways, let's try when we have the companion key. The mark key. There you are. So let's cycle through our list and find all of the nearby companions when we give that order, and from there we can identify what commands we can actually say. So let's see, list mark subtype. So possible marks, and then for I don't know if it'll let me do iconfigurable mob, but we'll try. Player in.get world.get entities. No, it has to, I think it has to extend entity. But hey, we'll find out. Nope, doesn't like that. Okay, that's fine by me. I don't think I have any filters in here. Just sort of set it by hand. Nope. Oh well. That's fine. I can write. There. So that'll get us all of the configurable mobs within a 32 block radius around you. In a cubic span. Radius is weird to me. It always implies a circle. As it should. But, So... let's see. Trying to think here. Because it's an array, not a list. We can tell possible marks to just add everything that's inside of the array, but then we'll probably end up with a lot of duplicates. Alternatively, that might not be a huge problem. Because we could just check if the next, like, theoretical one in the list is contained inside of possible marks. Oh yes, possible marks. At the end here, always add cancel. So no matter what, you can always cancel, because accidentally saying like a companion that's like doing a big quarry project to go somewhere, not good. Anyways, configurable mob. So that gets us that. We know it'll work because we have this predicate that says we only are interested in those ones. So the next thing that we need is... let's see, let's limit this to ones that should respond to you. One thing out of the way. And then let's see, mark subtype marks equals config dot allowed marks. Okay. Possible marks add all. I think we can do better here though. Let's see. So let's see, list mark subtype marks for mob equals that. Okay, marks for mob, remove everything that's in possible marks, and then everything that's left only occurs inside of marks for mob, which means they are new ones that we need to worry about. It's a bit on the heavy side, but unless you're literally running an entire army within a 32 block space, should be fine. Okay, so let's just have that print out to us. Real quick, before the stream ends. So before we've even determined what our target is, we're checking what commands we could give it. Artists don't make clothes? I mean, so do I, but I like to look good, so. That said, I probably have a lot more mugs. Okay, so we go back here. Okay, so the only things that should appear in this list are the things that Jared is capable of. Which is admittedly most things, but for instance, we shouldn't see... No, scratch that. I think Jared's actually capable of basically everything right now. Because I didn't remove quarry and mine from the list. Okay, let's get to far enough away. Yeah, so the only thing in the list here is cancel. If I come closer, so that I'm within range of detecting Jared, then the list is way longer. Good. But it still ends with cancel. Good. So that means we can now set the available list of commands that we are scrolling through to minimize time to only things that our nearby compatriots could actually do. Hooray. We've been needing a frog companion. I do want to add frogs. I have a friend who's really into frogs. I think they'd appreciate that. There is a frog hat. It is worth saying. Like, we do have that. It gives you very slight jump boost. Said friend, in fact, like, modeled what that should look like. But we don't actually have actual frogs. But that would be nice to include, I will admit. But okay. Now we could, theoretically, continually update this list, but that would get quite laggy, and could also really mess up, like, what you were trying to say, if, for instance, one of the companions just wanders out. So, let's just come up here. Private static, and this would be... should this be an array? I think it might need to be an array. Yeah, I think it needs to be an array. There's really no reason for me to do that, but I just want to make it there. Let's see, where is the release? Oh, this there. Okay. Right. Unmarked key is called when it's pressed, not when it's released. So then we want to say that mark options equals possible marks to array. There. And then we can get a subset of that for the options, like the object that we're actually looking for. But I do not have time for that, I'm afraid, because we are literal seconds to midnight here. So, I hope you've enjoyed the adventures of Skeleton Go Burr, and we'll be back next week to either do some more work on the changelings, to get them all spick and span, or on this brand new HUD element. My next stream will be Thursday with some more Among Us at 9, and then depending on how my Wednesday goes, I might actually have had enough sleep to get Friday night going again on 9 on Friday, but otherwise I will be back on Saturday at 9 with some more Carousel, and we'll be back for more of this on Tuesday next week. Meanwhile, I do make videos at youtube.com/RumorComic when I've, again, had enough sleep, and my sleep has been terrible, I don't know why. And everything I do, including all of the work on this mod, is powered by people like you over at patreon.com/lying. Hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all as ever. next time.